So YouTube, went out today, see what that thing is there? Well, picked up 2 of them, loaded it up onto the back of the truck. You can only fit it 1 at a time actually, and it stood out about 5 feet out of the back, but loaded 2 of them up, started cutting the one, but I didn't cut that one yet because saw's out of gas, and I don't know, I didn't feel like it after doing the second one, so there's still some more up there. Those are shipping crates, where they store big things and very big things, and they get put on a ship and stuff, and then they're covered in cardboard. Well, they're getting thrown out by a company, and it said free wood in the back, so decided to get some free wood. And show you. So for the shop in here, we cut up some wood. I also cleaned up. I vacuumed the carpet in here. The carpet's only in here, you know, like there's a big oil stain and stuff there. I try to avoid getting oil on it, but the carpet's only here to insulate the floor. The floor gets so cold, and we're trying to get this shop from 32 degree, below 32, like sometimes in the single digits it gets in here when it's really cold, up to a nice warm 60, 70 degrees within a matter of a few minutes. And I can show you these 2x4s that made up the crates. They burn really good. You know, much better than some of the other firewood we've been burning. Now that I got it going, turn down the draft a little bit so it burns a little longer. It's really not that warm out today, but I just wanted to see how well these burn. So, anyways, enough of that. Let me show you what is going on today. So, I was working on a YZ. Got it all apart, all the tools laying here. And, well, yes, I know this is a 3/4 wrench, but I only used it as a little hammer. So, I actually got one of these seal sets. And I ordered 2 of these. These are actually both the crank seals here, and I got 2 sets of these. So when I rebuilt the top end, I had another one. I accidentally hit quantity 2 when I ordered these off eBay. Didn't realize it, so I got 2. And that didn't bother me, really. I didn't bother to send anyone back, of course, because number 1, it wasn't worth it. Number 2, you know, that way I have some spare seals. So what's been happening here is my power valve, the bolt on the inside of here, kept coming loose. And actually what happened was, this is actually not the correct size for this hole. This is actually a 6mm hole, and I don't know what the original one was, but I had to re-tap that out to a 6mm hole. And what actually kept happening is I also noticed I had a big leak. Now I pressure washed this all today, but I had a leak coming from here. So I'm thinking, what the hell? Power valve is coming loose and it's constantly leaking. You know, something's wrong here, you know. And this, I put all new seals in. Well, what I didn't realize is that I actually found this when I was in my parts box from the old motor. I don't really use diagrams. I put everything back in and inspect everything to make sure it's all back together correctly, and double inspect it, you know. But I guess I need to start using diagrams, because I forgot this part. Now, call me a dumbass, call me whatever you want, but, you know, I've done motors before. I'm not stupid. But it's my fault that I lost this. Now, I could have lost it somewhere else. Well, then I would have fucked it up. Fucked up the tranny or whatever. But I lost this piece here, so luckily I lost this piece. I'm good. But, yep, could have screwed it up. But you know what? I didn't. So, this piece was not in it. So what this piece does is, this is actually how it was together. So you go onto here, try to do this with one hand, and you see that here, there's a seal. Now I just replaced the seal. I actually punched out the old one. Here's the old one. It's all shitty and would have still worked, but if I have another seal, so I might as well put a new one in there. But if you look, that seal does not seal anything. And I found this out because actually I put this together too fast and did not look at that. So this seal actually needs to be on here, and what this does is this seals the oil from coming out from behind the power valve. So when this sits in here, it sits in like that, oil's coming out, It's going out right in between here. So, this is how it was before. Now I take this bushing thing, I set it in there. Look how nice and tightly that fits in there. Right inside that seal. So, what was going on was, since this bike did not have that bushing in here, this bushing minimizes vibrations. There's a lot of vibrations because the piston is actually right there. You can see the edge of the rings there. Piston's right there. So, when you're that close to a piston that's moving at full throttle, maybe 150 times per second, which is crazy. You probably can't even imagine something like that. This is going to cause a lot of vibrations. And what actually happened is the first time that it happened, it vibrated this hole out. Second time, I actually wound up with another exhaust leak again for some reason, and I decided I wanted to fix it. So, luckily I found out that the power valve came loose, and I fixed this just a few weeks before. And this power valve, when it came loose, it actually didn't do anything this time. Now, what I did is I tapped out 6mm threads with a 1.0 thread pitch. So that's a 1.0 thread pitch that's in there. The threads actually aren't fully down inside the block of the power valve because it was actually tapered out, but I could only go with the 1.6mm bolt. That's the biggest I could have possibly went. So here's the bolt, and the other one's a really tiny little bolt. Actually, I still think it might be on the table in there. It actually is, because I done this not too long ago. So here's the original power valve bolt, and here's the new one. And what I ended up having to do is I had to ground down that head there of that bolt. And what I also did is, so just to give a peace of mind, and also since the bolt was just, it was actually slightly too long for how deep I could drill it out. So, since it was slightly too long, I ground down a lock washer till it was the diameter of that bolt head there, and then that should give me some locking force. So, that's why the power valve came loose. So what I'm going to do, it's actually just that little bushing in there for the seal. Because it wasn't doing that, it wasn't holding its center. Now the power valve was grounded down plenty. I didn't actually machine it because it's just a play bike. But I grounded it down because this is 40 over cylinder. This cylinder was actually bored out 40 over. So it was this piece here was ground down. Another thing I actually did notice is, and actually this is kind of my fault, I should actually have this mount on the top of the head, and I know some guys are going to comment on that. I do have the mount, so I'm going to put those on while I'm in here. The reason why is, I haven't had any issues with it, but the reason why that mount's there is to keep the whole motor. The motor will tend to try to sway, and it will try to, on these mounts here, so there's the bottom bolts. Well, this motor, my Warrior, I didn't ever put those on when I had my four-wheeler, my Warrior. I didn't really need that. This motor has a little more power than my Warrior motor. This has like 40 horsepower, almost 40 from stock. The newer ones even have even more. It's like 10 more horsepower or something like that. But I know on top of it, it's bored 40 over, so I'm probably pushing, I know I have at least 40 horsepower coming right out of this, right from this crank. That's how the Japs measured it, right from the crank. So, you know, but that's it for the power valve. It's just this bushing that came out. I also replaced this seal because here's the old one, there's a new one. So I decided to replace that too. So now that I got this problem figured out, I'm also going to put some red Loctite on it, the really strong stuff, since these threads aren't perfect in there either. So this shouldn't come loose again, because that's not normal that they came loose. I had Loctite in on the bolts. I Loctited everything when I rebuilt the motor and stuff, because I didn't want anything to come loose. But that should not have came loose with Loctite on there. So something obviously forced it. It's just over vibrations, you know. And even with that on there, these power valves must really vibrate. This thing also has some wear in it, so the power valve's going to have a little more play on it than what it used to have. Like I said, it's just a play bike. I'm not racing this bike. It's an 86, so not saying I could race in a vintage class, but I'm not going to. I'm just playing around on it.